essentially, what I'm planning to do is just giving some innovation and ideas what we are doing. But if you have questions, you can ask during the presentation, or we can come back to different parts. And then I have lots of slides and then lots of possibilities. So we can expand on different parts, because what I planned here is just giving an overview of what we are doing here with my doctoral students and colleagues in Linz. And then it would be very good to use this opportunity as a collaboration. So we have a very active community here, and it would be great to do this. So so I have in this structure. We can expand in different parts, or we can just skip different parts. So I just want to give you a background of where I'm coming from, and then what we are doing. And then I will show most of the time of the research of my PhD students, and then the different topics what we are covering. But of course, there are many more. And then we are working on new theories in education with my colleagues, and then also we are trying to improve the research methodologies. So it might be interesting for anyone, and we have lots of collaboration and lots of possibilities to expand in these kind of projects. So originally I'm from Hungary, and I used to study mathematics, and then I started my PhD in applied mathematics in numerical analysis in the US. But I just become very interested in using technologies in teaching. So I changed my direction to mathematics education, and I restarted my PhD again at the University of Michigan, where I was working with really amazing people, Hyman Bass and Deborah Ball. And I become very much interested in educational technology and also comparative studies. So I went to Cambridge for a year to work on technologies and then comparative education with Kenneth Ruthven and Paul Andrews. And I ended up staying in Cambridge, and also started to do more research on educational technology. And then I spent 13 years in Cambridge leading the doctoral school. But now I moved to the Johannes Kepler University in Linz, where I had the privilege to set up the Linz School of Education doctoral program. And essentially, with my experiences in Cambridge, we are just setting up a very similar doctoral school. And currently we have more than 40 PhD students, and doing lots of different research. We are running now 13 projects just in our STEAM education department, but many more other projects. And we are trying to make this space as a collaborative space to spend ideas. So I moved more from mathematics to STEAM education, but our focus is still many of the students and many of our research is mathematics education, but we expanded to other sciences and arts, and then I will give you some of the experiences. But what I want to say that we have a very lively community, and if you are interested, we would be very happy to collaborate on any kind of project and work. And in Linz, the Linz School of Education is quite new, and this is a very exciting place because it's expanding very rapidly. So we have lots of different centers. We are having new professors in computer science, in chemistry education, physics education, and so on. So we would like to work with different sciences connected to mathematics and then also technology. And then also Professor Hohenwater, who is a good friend of mine, and then I started with Marcus developing. So Marcus developed GeoGebra, and I was working on the community and the research part of GeoGebra. So essentially, the GeoGebra Development Center is in the same floor as in the Linz School of Education. So we are very privileged to be able to use the technology and then also influence the technology development of our work. So probably many of you know GeoGebra. So GeoGebra used to be a dynamic geometry and computer science, computer algebra system combined, but now it become a huge platform. And I will give you some updates. Maybe some of you know the developments, but it's developing very rapidly, and it can allow us to use technology for many different directions. And then also the community of GeoGebra grew over the years. So there are more than 100 million users all around the world using GeoGebra. And then also the scope of the use expanded. So because this is an open source project or a shareware project, then we have users from all ages, from kindergarten to university. And GeoGebra is not only used now in mathematics, but it's used in all different subjects, all STEM subjects and history and architecture and other places. And then this expansion is due to the community around GeoGebra. So we encourage the community to share resources. So there are more than 2 million resources available in GeoGebra, and then it's really accessible. So then this is the exchange part. And then also we are actively building this community with GeoGebra institutes and also with different membership to the community to enhance mathematics and STEAM education all around the world. But my main role here in Linz is to look at how do we do research on STEAM education, and then how we can embrace technology and then all the sciences. When what we are trying to do is trying to come up with new innovations and also looking at creativity in this education. So we try to combine the different kind of innovation, technological, pedagogical innovation, involving different stakeholders and creating these ecosystems, but also looking at how our research could be furthered, because many times we need to develop new theories and then new methodologies. And then, of course, it's becoming quite complex and then multidimensional. And then we try to address some of these issues and try to engage in this kind of description. And then, of course, I had to include a 3D printing part, because then that is one of our main area of research, and that combining 3D printing with education. So then this is our background. This is where we are working. And I collected some of the examples that what we are doing here together with PhD students and colleagues. So then these are some of the examples of projects and then PhD thesis on what we are working. So we are mostly working on creativity and innovation. And creativity, it's very difficult to design. So we found more than 120 definitions, and then lots of things has been written on creativity. But then the trend is more like creativities, that how we can introduce or reintroduce creativities in education. And there are many different kinds of creativities. And then what we try to do is that observing in this kind of new approaches and the development of different creativities. So this is through most of the time transdisciplinary learning. So although we started from mathematics education, we try to combine the different disciplines and then try to look at the learning and teaching from a holistic perspective. And Pam Bernard, my colleague in Cambridge, had in this kind of theory of transdisciplinarity that is more than connecting the subjects, interdisciplinary, but also developing the environment and the ecosystem with this kind of work as well. So essentially what we are trying to do is that creating an environment or an ecosystem where technologies, pedagogies, policies enable the development of creativities and innovation in education. And then we are trying to experiment with all different kind of studies and so on to be able to do this work in Linz. So I will give you some technological innovation because we are working with GeoGebra, and then it's developing in many different ways. But I think the pedagogical innovation is really interesting. So what we try to do is then try to look at that how we can use technologies with different devices. So originally we started with GeoGebra on desktops, but now most of the use of GeoGebra is on tablets and mobile phones. So what we do that teaching and learning on these devices and then designing exercises or resources is very different. So we try to look at that, how to optimize this, and then we use lots of UX-based research to optimize the system, and then also the teaching and learning in these systems. We also try to promote collaboration in the classroom, but also collaboration online. So probably some of you know the GeoGebra Classroom, which is a basic learning management system. So the teachers can create virtual classrooms. They can follow the students live, and then also the students are able to create their own collaborative environment, so they can work on the same problems, and then we can highlight it. So it's a very interesting system. If you didn't try, interested, then you could try. And then also one of my PhD students is working on how to find high quality resources, because now then the problem is not that there is no resources available for teachers and students, but how to find the good ones. And then we are doing research. We have lots of examples and papers about this. And the development on the research is also correspond to the development of the software. So the GeoGebra search engine is learning from our research and then working on this kind of topics. We started to work on GeoGebra sensors. So it's a possibility to collect data with mobile phones. So every phone has more than 15 sensors. So we can use this data to do real life experiments. So hopefully we will be able to have this sensor app available, and then students can collect data through their phones and then use it for learning mathematics and other sciences. But one of the main area we are focusing is on augmented reality. And augmented reality give us lots of opportunities to enhance students' awareness of 3D, and then also learning some mathematical ideas. So in that case, we can use AR app, in this case, the GeoGebra AR, to model. So students just walk around, and then they can model everyday objects, and then analyze this data, and then learn mathematics through some experimentation. And I will give you lots of examples of our AR applications. And we are running several projects and currently trying to have new projects in this area as well. And then also it's possible that we can put mathematical objects in the classroom or in the environment, and then we can explore by walking around and then exploring the activities. And this is really helpful especially for our outdoor mathematics projects. I will show you some examples, and then you can manipulate the AR experiment live from the app. and then you can use it. So I think some of you already used the AR app, but it's really worth to try and then explore mathematics through AR, because for students it's a really encouraging way to do this. The other direction is 3D printing, and then we have lots of 3D printing projects. So whatever we are creating in the online environment, either with GeoGebra or with AR, can be printed. So we have lots of experiments with 3D printing, and now we got a new grant, and then we are setting up a STEAM lab or several STEAM labs in Austria, and we are trying to integrate 3D printing into schools. And then also we try to work with artists, and I will show you some of the pedagogical approaches that how we can integrate arts into this technology environment. So, and then also we organized the Bridges conference, where we had 300 artists working on mathematics and art topics. And essentially we are also editing a special issue on mathematics and the arts, which will be out very soon in some months. We also have machine learning activities. We are looking at how to use data streaming from GeoGebra. So we are trying to look at creativities, that how we can detect creativities in the classroom and then supply with students. And this is my student from Israel looking at different machine learning activities. But we have two big projects working on learning analytics. So we are creating adaptive learning platform for Austrian schools. So the entire mathematics curriculum will be available on adaptive learning platforms, probably within a year, by the end of by the beginning of the next term. Another project what we are working is GeoGebra Notes. So we try to promote collaboration. So GeoGebra Notes was coming mostly from interactive whiteboards, but now then this is a kind of collaborative environment that students have a big canvas where they can collect GeoGebra files, videos, texts, and then so on, and then they can create their own projects. You can use writing and then so on. So it's a very similar environment like Jamboards or Padlets, but it's possible to include all mathematical and science activities. So then this is a very good tool for projects, project-based learning. And also we try to find good topics. So now we have a kind of automatic search. So we are trying to move the search engine, but also now GeoGebra has a big content team who is collecting high quality resources, and then we are trying to create content maps for mathematics and physics and for other sciences as well. So you can already use the mathematics map on GeoGebra, and then we are trying to contribute from the research perspective to these maps. So these were some of the technological innovations what we are working on. But probably a very interesting topic is pedagogical innovation. So we have many different directions. So for example, gamification. So two of my students in Uruguay, Fabian and Cecilia, is working on gamification. And then we created a new tool which allow different kind of gamification experiments. So gamification includes like gamification elements which we use in everyday life in Amazon or any kind of activities, that we can have stars, leaderboards, and then so on. And then there are educational tools like Kahoot and other gamified environments. But it's quite restricted because it has a philosophy. So what we did, we created a new gamified tool, which is a gamification editor. So every student and every teacher has created can create their own gamified environment, both physical and digital. And then we will have lots of papers about it if you are interested. And then also we have a project now called Steambox, and then we will have a new gamified environment in GeoGebra. So it will be released probably within a month. And last week we had a conference about it, and then we are writing some book chapters, and then how we can gamify the classroom and the different environments. So gamification is one of the direction, but we also try to work with games. And it started from the doctoral dissertation of Diego Lieban, and he was working on how to connect the physical and digital resources in education. So what we try to do is that learning and teaching in physical worlds and then digital worlds, and that how we can connect it. And then after a while, we realized that games are very good tools for teaching and learning. And then we try to develop some games, but we realized that students can develop games much more effectively from us. So we started to collect games from students and then also from teacher education students. And then what we try to do is then coming up with this kind of new era of manipulation or manipulatives, where we have games or manipulatives both in physical and then in digital forms. And then we had lots of studies about how teachers and students are moving, then the students are moving very easily between the physical and the digital. So in this kind of movement, and then we want to express this. And because of the technology, we have lots of opportunities to create very simple tasks, and then using this kind of tasks to create either physical or digital games or resources. For example, this spiral can be created in 15 minutes. So it's a very simple activity, but it could grow to very complex problems as well. And then we can have very interesting experimentations with this. And then also we try to use games which is designed by real game designers. So we just had a project. So we just completed a project on Logifaces, so which is a very popular game. And this is just prisms, and then you have to create continuous surface. And then it's quite complicated. So we are trying to this game both physical and digital, and we just published a book with 100 lesson plans that how we can use Logifaces, both physical and digital form or 3D printed form in mathematics and other courses, even arts and chemistry and physics and so on. So then this is some of our team members who are creating these elements. And then, for example, this is the Logifaces game, which you can print for yourself. And then through the printing process, students learn the geometry, the algebra, the technology of Logifaces, and then also they can be quite creative. And as we try to design games, what we thought that, okay, let's have something very simple. And then we had the idea that how do we divide the cube into equal volumes? And there are infinite many solutions. So we just ask students to send their solutions, and then they can design it in GeoGebra or in paper, and then we will be able to print it. So now it's used as a kind of present from our department, that we can have different puzzles from this very simple idea of creating this kind of games. And also some of the teacher students creating the games. So this is a Voronoi diagram, and then how we can create a game from this. So we can move the Voronoi diagram into 3D, and then we can print, and then we can have a puzzle which also gives an opportunity to give lots of interesting ideas and lots of interesting experiences for students to learn. Or we had a large PhD, a large project in Montenegro, where we had 10 schools and 200 teachers learning 3D printing. And then we realized that we can use this 3D printing. And then some of the students recommended to print some cookie cutters. And then through cookie cutters, we can explore the technology, we can explore mathematics, the geometry and algebra and then different parts. And then we we baked some cookies, and then we can eat mathematics together with the students, exploring the symmetries and the different parts as well. And then also we have a wooden 3D printer where the students are learning the mechanics behind 3D printing. But another teacher and then later PhD student from Luxembourg created a very exciting game. So in this game is real integration of the physical and the digital. So we printed some parts of the game, but half of the parts of the game is physical blocks, 3D printed, which can be done with the students, but the other part is augmented reality. So the students can always only solve the puzzles if they use augmented reality and the 3D printing materials together, and then it will give us lots of richness of the environment. Another project, Imam from Indonesia, who is also finishing his PhD very soon, is working on microgames. So then this became very popular during COVID, that we can create games which are just very short games. It's maximum 5 minutes. It can be physical, it can be digital, and then it can be used for students to focus or to introduce some topic. So now we have a huge collection of these micro games, which can be used in different phases of the classroom. It's very similar kind of idea like micro lectures. And then we can utilize it as a teaching tool. So we have lots of papers about this. And actually, what I'm talking about is just examples, but we all have projects and then papers about it. So I can send you the link for all the papers. So we just had the report now, and then in the past 4 years, the students wrote 247 papers about this kind of project. So if you are interested in depth what we are doing, then we can I can send you papers and more details about these projects. It's just an overview of what we are doing. Another project we were working on is a Logiface Polyuniverse. So this is also a very interesting game, and it started as an artist project in Hungary. And then it turned out to be a very interesting educational tool, which can be used from kindergarten to university level to teach combinatorics, geometry, arts, and then also physics, for example. We have, and then we just published a book about this with all of these activities. So we had an Erasmus project. So it's a very interesting topic. And then currently we are working with a group in Hungary, who is the group of Ernő Rubik. And we are developing new kind of games. So there are lots of new development of games. And then this is one of the games we are looking at. And then this is called the Mondrian game. So this was kind of developed for the 150 years anniversary of Mondrian. And now we have a big project with the psychologists collecting the skills or measuring the skills of students who are using this Mondrian game in different classrooms. And we had a big Mondrian game competition last year in the New York Mathematics Museum. and we are working with the New York Mathematics Museum quite closely. And so then this is about games. There will be lots of other things, but also we can utilize the culture of students. So similarly, that connecting physical and digital words. So for example, we are working a lot with architecture. So my student Shireen from Egypt is looking at how to utilize ancient architecture. And then we are developing a dashboard. We have lots of papers about this, that how do we support teachers to integrate culture and architecture into the classroom. So we can create examples, and then we have in this dashboard, so the teachers can choose that what is the age of the students, what kind of architecture they want to model, modern or ancient architecture, and how do we want to model in digital and physical form with 3D printing, AR, 3D scanning, and then so on, physical way, like 3D printing, origami, or 4D frames, which is also a game. And then also we can have different environments, because we can do in this kind of modeling, not only in the classroom, but we have projects on outdoor mathematics. Sherin is giving workshops in different museums, or we can turn spaces into learning spaces and then do this kind of modeling. So we have been running lots of workshops. And then what is very interesting, that young students are very proficient with the technology, and then they can do lots of modeling, and then they learn lots of mathematics and different skills, and then also engineering and other topics from these directions as well. Another project which was part of Ben's PhD is with MedCity Maps. So during COVID, we had to design learning environments, and then we use the MedCity Maps apps, which is a GPS app, and then you can create trails. And then students were walking in their cities, and then with augmented reality, they modeled some architecture, and then they sent in their solutions, and then we printed them and then mailed them to the work. So they learned lots of modeling skills and then mathematical skills as well. Similar projects we did with Matthias in Uruguay. And actually next week I'm going to Argentina. So we are starting a kind of new STEAM doctoral school, and we will have a STEAM summer school in Argentina, where we will have students from Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Peru, Mexico, and because then there is lots of really interesting activities is happening in South America. Because, for example, in Uruguay, each student receiving a laptop or a tablet for 15 years now. So it's completely integrated into the curriculum. So in Uruguay or many parts of Argentina, then the technological resources have been available for about 15 years. And students don't even know that how is school without the laptops, and then all the resources and all textbooks are electronic. Sometimes they use books, but most of the time they rely on the technology. So we learn a lot by introducing the technologies in the national level from South American countries. So I will send you the link, and then if you want, you can also join our meeting from 6 to 10 February in Argentina. So then that is interesting work. My other student, from Korea, also did modeling, connecting mathematics with astronomy, and then using augmented reality and 3D printing. So then that was also a very interesting project. And we had several projects with our colleague Noah Dana Picard in Israel, looking at Israeli culture, and then architecture, poetry, religion, and so on, and then how we can introduce topics into the classroom. We have several papers about this as well. And my other student in Portugal is looking at the particularities of Portuguese-speaking countries. because the influence of the language is very, and then also the kind of Portuguese culture is very prevalent. So he's looking at Brazil, Angola, and Cape Verde compared to Portugal, and that how we can use the cultural artifacts and elements in this Portuguese culture to be able to promote mathematics learning. Similarly, I have several students from Indonesia working on Indonesian culture. So, for example, shadow puppeting and in different kind of patterns, and then how we can create learning opportunities. Actually, Indonesia is very much pushing towards STEAM education, and then we are trying to look at that, how to integrate the STEAM education and cultural elements into physical and also hybrid learning in Indonesia. And my colleague Adi, who is in Indonesia, one of the developers of MedCity Maps, and then we integrate MedCity Maps into teacher education, and then looking at that how we can use in this kind of MedCity Map work. So every teacher who is participating in these courses, they have to create mathematical trails in Indonesia. So if you go to Indonesia, there are tens of thousands of mathematical trails available, and then it can be connected with 3D printing and augmented reality as well. Excuse me, it's a useful lecture. We work with new technologies, with robotics and so on. So maybe I skip some of these parts, because we have a project on robotics and 3D printing, but it's in the beginning. We start to work with maker culture. So we started to work with 3D laser cutters, but I will talk more about laser cutting arts, and then this is some augmented reality work. But the other direction, what we try to do is how to integrate students' specific learning environments. So my student Bea from Iceland is looking at short videos, silent videos, and then how we can turn classrooms into YouTubers. So then the students are creating, or the teachers are creating short, like half a minute or 1 minute videos. They give it to the students, and then they have to annotate. They have to be YouTubers, and essentially they are very good YouTubers. And then it's very interesting that through this kind of activity, we can turn the classroom into a very exciting place for learning. Or I had a student who also graduated looking at mathematical memes, and Julia has been working on mathematical memes, and then I think she's becoming a star in this kind of meme culture. Maybe some of you already heard some of her talks. So memes could also give an opportunity to give a quite deep understanding of mathematics in the classroom, and then beyond the classroom, because it's becoming like a culture, and then it's kind of viral spread of these mathematical memes. And my other student, Fadlan, is looking at social scientific issues with comics. So we are exploring that how we can use comics to promote and understand different mathematical and then scientific topics. So we already looking at that, how to create in this kind of digital comics from different perspectives. And as I said, we are working a lot on arts. So my student Lajos is creating an app for students to learn algebra and geometry with music. So we can correspond music with geometrical figures, and then also with numbers. And then essentially students can DJ and then learn mathematics with this kind of work. So you can find lots of videos on this app, and then it will be soon available and then downloaded. And my other student from Singapore is looking at functions and sound and music. So probably some of you know that GeoGebra has sound functions. So we can correspond sound and music with functions. So we can do lots of interesting explorations. And we also trying to connect mathematics, music, and coding. We are just writing a paper about this, and then we try to involve girls in this work. So we had a project with Van Bernard in Cambridge when we used the Raspberry Pi and Sonic Pi a software where students are learning computer coding through music composition. So we had some performances when the students were DJing with their coding activities as well. We will have a project soon on mathematical jewelry to include students in the classroom. So Natalia in Serbia is working on it. We work a lot with origami with computer science, mathematics, augmented reality, 3D printing, and then also in this kind of STEAM learning activities could give us some new perspectives of what is possible in the classroom. So just an example that together with Christoph, whom probably some of you know, and then Diego, we had a project about 3 years ago that modeling the geodesic dome, which is a very much used tool in architecture. So we built this geodesic dome with students and with teachers from 4D Frame, which is a Korean architecture tool. Very exciting. I can tell you more about this. And then also within GeoGebra, you can do it in this kind of modeling. So first we created the physical objects, and then you can explore more deep mathematical ideas with the GeoGebra. So in that case, you can explore symmetries, angles, and the geometries and different patterns, and it could give a very rich activity. And it turned out that this was a very successful project. So in Finland, they built the world's largest ice dome, and it became like a national project, and thousands of students were participating. And this ice dome became like a science center. And then when the students went back to the classroom, they explored that where this geodesic dome is appearing in history, in architecture, with origami, and so on. And then it could give like a whole semester activity just to explore different properties of the geodesic dome. And then we had a conference in Finland when we thought that we can go to another level. And then we had mathematical hairdressing with the geodesic dome. So every year when we have the Bridges conference, there is a possibility to have mathematical hairdressing in this kind of work as well. So maybe I just give too much details. So then this is laser cutting art. So it's with Diego, and we have a new laser cutter, and then we are trying to explore different laser cutting work. And actually, if you are interested, from 15 to 19 of May, we will have a workshop on laser cutting and 3D printing and visual arts and so on. So we'll have lots of people coming. So maybe I can advertise some of these activities as well. We do some projects with Eva Ulbrich and Branko Angic on history and mathematics. So for example, we can use the maze, which is a kind of really historic phenomenon, but building the maze is difficult, but it can be done in GeoGebra, and then we use augmented reality. So you can see here that we have some workshops and experiments when the students and the teachers create their own mazes, or we can use some mazes and then they can walk around with the augmented reality app and so on. and also we can print all of these mazes. So maybe I don't have too much time, and maybe I skip some of the work. So we work with mandalas, because mandalas is in every culture. So we used to have these festivals when we created drone mandalas and then also vegetable mandalas, and then we can explore the symmetries, and then we can eat mathematics together with the students. So I think I just skip some of the. We work a lot with mathematics and dancing, and actually we just started a new project last week in Athens, and then it will be STEAM dancing. So we will have lots of technology and lots of dancing involved in this project. We already had some exhibitions on dancing and coding, and then we work with our South African colleagues when they have this embodied mathematics. So any kind of movement can turn into mathematical ideas. And then now I have a student who is working on dancing and physics, and then how we can teach dancing and physics together with the students. And then, of course, we can connect robotics and dancing. So we work with the Ars Electronica Festival and the local arts university. So we can do in different kind of robotica work. And actually, 2 years ago, we had a robot band playing drums in the park just next to our office. Probably we have a big competition of mathematical arts in South Africa, but I think it's another lecture. In Argentina and in South America, we have photography and GeoGebra. We work with different artists, but probably I skip some of the work. So we have computational thinking. We have a project called Colette, and then we are looking at how to integrate computational thinking into the classrooms, computational thinking, storytelling, and robotics. So Karin just finished her PhD 6 months ago on storytelling and robotics. And maybe I skip some of that. So we work with Flip Classroom. This is a very interesting project with Brigitta, who is working on learning spaces, that how we can turn any kind of space, like a classroom, a school, a city, or a country, into a learning space. So there are lots of opportunities is happening here. And Yuka, my other student, is looking at students' well-being. Probably you've seen some of his TED Talks. And then this is his classroom in Finland. So he is a quite well-known person, and all the equipment is done by students. And then how we can make students more comfortable and happier in the classroom. And then he also measures some of these activities as well. Okay, and we do lots of things with sustainable development and statistics, and how to integrate big data into education. And we can work on assessment and policy, but probably I should finish the talk. We work with blind students, and what I would like to say is that we are trying to develop theories for innovation. So with my colleague Hossam Kasti, who also come to Linz from Lebanon and Qatar, we are working on new theories of innovation. So maybe during the questions, we can talk about this idea, because it takes some time. And then we have some prototype of innovation theories, which is presented in the media conference. And then now we are writing some papers about this. And then also we are trying to look at different methodologies. So we most of the time working on design-based research, but what we find that in design-based research, it's quite slow. So we start to integrate user experience research. So we start eye tracking, and we are developing personas. But maybe during the discussion, you can have some things, and then I can add some more of these activities and so on. Maybe I just talk too much, and then give lots of information, but these are some of the projects what we are working, but we are very open to collaborate and then host anyone. So yeah, I think that is the end, what I would say. But if you are interested in any parts, either the research, the methodology, the theoretical part, I would be very happy to answer your questions. So thank you very much. I hope it was good.